Let me start out by saying Happy New Year. Also, I want to thank all of you who posted your questions, thus making this video possible. Let's get started. After social clubs stopped being a big thing, what kind of places did guys usually meet? Social clubs didn't specifically just stop being a thing, but due to their being targets of law enforcement was the reason for closing them. Social clubs represented places where the FBI would post agents to conduct surveillance on a daily basis. Since the majority of these clubs closed down, guys meet in places like restaurants, diners, at gyms, in parks, and unfortunately at wakes. We often met in a cigar lounge that, for all intents and purposes, doubled as a social club. Keep in mind, anytime members get together, it's of great interest to the FBI, who document these meetings, take photos if possible, and then speak to their informants to try to find out what the specific meeting was about. How does a half sheet work? A half sheet is when a person is working with a bookie who takes his action. He hands in his bets from his customers and splits the money from the losses. When a customer wins, he's in what's known as the red. For example, if his customer hits for $2,000, he's in the red for that money. So if he has $5,000 in losses, instead of getting a cut of $2,500, he just get $500, and he's now out of the red. Basically, you're not coming out of your pocket to pay the losses. Do you know if Richard Ferrara of the Colombos is an informant, or has he been shelved? To start with, I don't know either. It's been reported, or rather speculated, that he cooperated and was sentenced to a few months rather than the recommended sentence, which, if my memory serves me, was a few years. I know his lawyer denied the allegations that he's cooperating. Usually, there would be what's called discovery that should list him as a cooperating witness. As of yet, I haven't seen any such document. A while back, there was an inaccurate report that Dennis DeLucia was also cooperating, which turned out to be false. It's a very slippery and dangerous slope when reporting, or more importantly, accusing a person of being an informant or cooperating. Did you ever meet Vinny Asaro? Any quick stories of any interactions you had with him? I knew Vinny very well, and I've created a video about my interactions with him, so I'm not going to reiterate those same stories. During your ceremony, did they tell you who was the administration of each family? They did not. Following that ceremony, I was introduced to the acting boss and consigliere of our family, and not long after, introduced to the underboss as well. Did you ever have any interactions with Petey Red DiCiera? I've never met him, and he was known to be the street boss who was with the West Side. One viewer wanted to know and wondered who came up with the broccoli rubber band around money and why. I don't know who started that trend. Most likely someone just used that type of rubber band because it's stronger than the typical one. During my time, I've seen money wrapped in rubber bands, tape, in bags, wrapped in plastic bags, wrapped in paper, in Ziploc bags, inside of a card, and in a stuffed animal. Any money I had to give someone, I would just put in an envelope or hand it as is to the person. During your time as a member, did you ever meet Kyle Twin Johnson? Yes, I've met Kyle a few times. He was a nice guy and very respectful. If I remember correctly, he was involved in a steakhouse located in Harlem. Do you know of any guys using Central Park in New York City as a meeting place to do walk talks? As I've mentioned earlier, guys use parks to meet in, and I'm sure Central Park has also been used as a meeting location, but I don't know any specifics. A park is actually a good place to meet, and if you go deep enough into the park, the better chances of remaining outside the vision of law enforcement. Have you ever had any interactions with the Melnish brothers? I only know of them and had no interactions with either brother. Do you think Italians moving to the suburbs in droves have diminished the communities, as there are little to no neighborhoods that can be described as Italian nowadays? Italians moving to a neighborhood would definitely not diminish it. Whether the person is legitimate or a criminal, Italians are known to take care of their property, and as far as being neighbors, basically live normal lives. If anything, Italians living in an area would help the value of the homes, not decrease it. Prior to an induction, a person's name is passed around to the families to see if there are any issues or objections. Does Philadelphia pass a list to New York or the Cavalcantes? During my time, I've never seen a list for either, so I don't believe that takes place. Is it true that Joey Testa and Anthony Senna were offered $2 million to have their own podcast? This is the first I'm hearing about it, but it wouldn't surprise me, although I can assure you it will never happen. Did John Gotti ever take that guy off the shelf when he took over the family? This person speaking about former Gambino captain Michael Chiazza, who was shelved by Neil Della Croce. I don't know for sure, but I highly doubt that Gotti, who considered Della Croce a mentor, would reinstate a guy who disrespected him. The following questions were sent to me outside of YouTube. Why do you think Ted Otto was never brought up on charges? I honestly have no idea. But what I can say is that a defense team during a trial wanted to question him, but the prosecutor wouldn't permit it, which says a lot in itself. Also, former Agent Otto was not permitted to take a job, such as taking surveillance photos. He would have cleaned bathrooms to still work for the government, but was not given that opportunity. Another person messaged and wanted to know, isn't law enforcement allowed to lie to suspects? The short answer is yes, it's permitted. However, former Agent Otto took it in many instances to another level. You mentioned Vic Amuso keeping Frank Lastarino on the shelf. Why do you think this was unjustified, considering everything he was involved in? My reasoning is, it can be looked at that Vic created Gaspipe. So isn't he just as guilty of Gaspipe sins? Frankie was following orders of Vic's underboss, who at the time was the only boss not incarcerated. Following Gotti showing up to Della Croce's house, which was a bold move, is it possible that Castellano feared Gotti? I couldn't tell you for sure who Castellano feared or didn't fear, but I doubt very much he feared Gotti. Did he know Gotti was a capable guy? Sure he did. But throughout his time in that life and time spent as a boss, do you know how many capable guys he's dealt with? If you haven't liked this video yet, please do, as it helps with YouTube's algorithm. And if you'd like to show your appreciation for videos like this, or help me to continue making them, you can do that by donating with the Super Thanks icon down below, or through the PayPal Cash App links in the video's description. And for the final question, you've mentioned quite a few times how Patty Della Rosa basically mistreated Louis Jet Campiro. How do you think Louis feels about Della Rosa today? Well, think about it. No one wants to get abused, or forgets it. From what I've seen, Louis always tried to be a good friend to Patty. He told me one day, I'm the only one who spoke up when there was issues. According to Louis, Patty's other associates were being sloppy with their cell phones in particular, which put Patty in jeopardy. And Louis basically gave them a tongue lashing. There were several occasions where Louis and his brother Charlie were upset at how he was being treated. I would say that today, Louis will always be respectful, but then again, Patty can no longer abuse him. I'll end on this note without saying too much, and I'll put it this way. According to what I've heard, Louis took special enjoyment at any video where I expose Patty's narcissistic personality.